Good morning. Our words of welcome are from Kimberly and Tomsak Carlson. It's not by chance that you arrived here today. You have been looking for something larger than yourself. Inside of you, there's a yearning, a calling, a hope for more, a desire for a place of belonging and caring. Through your struggles, someone nurtured you into being, instilled a belief in a shared purpose, a common yet precious resource that belongs to all of us when we share. And so you began to seek a beloved community, a people that does not put fences around love, a community that holds its arms open to the possibilities of love, a heart home to nourish your soul and share your gifts. Welcome home. Welcome to worship. And I offer a special welcome to you if you are newly with us this morning. We are honored by your curiosity and presence. We invite you to stay with us for discussion afterwards. For today's service, we have Lynn Cleek as service leader and Cheryl Swain reading. And we have a whole host of other folks supporting us both here on site in our studio and remotely as well. And so I just want to welcome you with live from Fellowship Hall. It's our LCUUF Sunday service. Now, let me talk about a few things about Zoom, about this technology that we're using. We should have done this a long time ago, but we're still learning. So much of this, many of you may have figured out. And then again, there may be some of you who are new with us, so this may be all new. Right now, you are muted, and you're not on video, most of you, and that's good. You're okay. You can do whatever you want to do in this service. People are not watching you. Now, I learned this morning that Telmex is out in large parts of Lakeside, so many folks don't have internet, and many of them are not here today, but it also means that our internet may get overloaded. So you may see sometimes that our mouths are not in sync with the words that are coming out. But don't worry, our lips will speed up and catch up. It does happen like that. If you see a message that says internet unstable on your screen, that means your internet is unstable. And you might want to think if you have other devices that are gobbling up your bandwidth in your house, maybe shut them down. That can help. And if you get dropped off, just rejoin. We're all in this together, and we're trying to make it work as well as we can. Now, let me talk a little bit about some of the features in Zoom. There's a button. Unfortunately, in Zoom, they designed the user interface for each type of product differently. So for a laptop versus a tablet, versus a phone. So it's hard for me to give you exact directions where these things are. But if you're using a laptop, there's a little button in the upper right corner that switches from speaker and gallery view. On a tablet, I believe it's on the upper left. On a phone, you may just swipe left and right to get these features. We'll be going from gallery view, which shows a whole bunch of different people at the same time, to speaker view, and it might be helpful to know where those are. Down at the bottom on most screens, although some it's on the top, you'll find a participant view button. It looks like two people, two heads. And if you press this, you get a list of all the people who are on our meeting today. More importantly, you'll get a bunch of little buttons, one of which is a blue hand. If you press that blue hand, that's equivalent to raising your hand, and that'll be useful later in this service as well. Next to the participant button is a chat button. Now, on some devices, especially phones, it's actually hidden underneath, I think, the three dots that say more. Chat brings up the chat window, and that's how we can communicate with each other during the service. We'll be using chat for joys and sorrows if you want to type something in there. And you can also use chat during the service to say hello to folks. So that is a little bit of detail about Zoom. We have a few announcements. And these we will also post in our daily sharing emails. Our first announcement is that we have a Monday women's discussion group is it 11 or if it's 12? I think it's at 12. It's at 11. I've been corrected again. It's at 11. Heek time. Contact either Catherine Luria or Pamela Cousinel for the discussion topic and access. Also on Wednesday, we have our community circle at 12 noon Heek time. Give me a correction, please.
Pamela says it's noon for the...
Okay. It's noon for the discussion group. And the community circle, somebody else will correct me, is... it's funny, my script is written one way and the slide is written the other way. I believe it's at 12.
Colleen says 11.
Okay, Colleen says 11. Great. Okay, so 0 for 2 here. Let's see what we can do about the third one. The third one is a Thursday women's coffee and chat at 12 noon Heek time. And I also would mention that if you have an announcement for future reference, just send it to announcements@lakechapalauu.org.
Good morning. Let us light our chalice. Our chalice lighting words are by Nancy Reed McKee. Within the heart of the flower, the fountain of beauty. Within the heart of community, a fire that warms and dances within the heart of each of us, a spark of the spirit of life. Holy, holy, holy. If you have a chalice at home, please light your chalice now. And if you can image on your camera your chalice, raise your hand in chat and we'll enable your camera. You do have to click OK and show you lighting or holding your chalice. Hopefully we'll now see some of you who have lit their chalices. And now we'll sing. Our hymn this morning is number 38. Morning Has Broken. Please join Lyndon Jensen in singing. One moment. We're having a few technical difficulties, but we'll be right with you. And please feel free to sing along. Thank you, that was lovely. And now here's Matt.
Before we have our time for joys and sorrows, I need to speak out. This week has been a horrible time for our friends in the United States of America. This week, a white Minneapolis policeman murdered a black man named George Floyd, suffocating him by crushing his neck. This came only a few days after 3 white Georgia men were arrested for chasing and killing a black man, Ahmaud Arbery, because he was out running. Understandably, people, black and white people, turned to the streets where police responded in force. Note that these same police did not respond with force against violent gun-toting, mostly white people protesting public health measures. And the country's president weighed in, urging violence, recalling the words of Southern racist George Wallace, saying, "When the looting starts, the shooting starts." It's been a hard week for our friends, for those of us from north of the border, and for all of us who seek a world of justice and peace. And so for them and for all of us, let me offer prayer, a prayer by Unitarian Universalist ministers Reverend Teresa Soto and Reverend Meg Foley. Unitarian Universalist minister Reverend Teresa Soto writes, "All of us need all of us to make it." I want you to get used to those words and make them your prayer. All of us need all of us to make it. This is why Unitarian Universalists support the Black Lives Matter movement. Please take a moment to center the struggle for Black lives in your thoughts. Say it with me, loud or soft. All of us need all of us to make it. In a world where some of us are targeted for struggle and brutality, where others of us benefit and flourish, we pray, all of us need all of us to make it. In the excruciating place that lives between seeing and naming and hearing and changing, we pray. All of us need all of us to make it. Make a picture in your mind of someone you aren't very happy with right now. Look at their face in your mind and pray. All of us need all of us to make it. Unitarian Universalists believe that all of us need all of us to make it. This is why we are in solidarity with the movement for Black lives today and every day. Amen.
Each week, we take time to remind ourselves that we belong to a community which cares for each other. We do this by sharing our significant joys or sorrows in our life. If you have a joy or sorrow to share today, you can also type it into the chat and we'll read those aloud. We're going to begin with our concerns and sorrows. Whatever you or the world may be holding that is in need of our healing and caring thoughts, you are welcome to type other sorrows and concerns in the chat box. Today we have 2 sorrows that were sent in earlier. One from Linda Conklin. As most of you know, Wayne Conklin has died. She will have an online memorial service planned sometime next month and will advise us then. Roy Haynes has written, "Please keep my college friend and former dance partner Tiffany Cooper Allen and her husband Tori in your thoughts and prayers. Many of you remember Tiffany from her visit to Lakeside last September to visit David and me. Tiffany has such a wonderful, kind, and loving spirit, but seems to be down and broken from what is going on in her hometown. Tiffany and Tori live in downtown Minneapolis and are trapped in their apartment for the most part due to the protests and riots going on there. She says that it is difficult to take walks for basic essentials. because of them being black, and that are afraid they might be targets because tensions are so very high there. We are all victims in situation. Pray for healing from this current situation. Are there any more sorrows? All right, let us recall now our joys. Whatever you may be celebrating, whatever evokes a feeling of joy or peace for yourself or for others. And I would like to start with one because this is the first time I've done one of these chats. And I have to tell you, it is absolutely incredible the effort that people put in to do this and set it up so that they can share Sunday mornings with you. The people are amazing and they work very, very hard.
There are a couple of joys that have been typed into the chat. We have one from Linda and Peter. Our daughter has just found out that she will be keeping her job while they have reduced the company by 80%. It's a true blessing. And one from Bill Frayer. Joy for the warm, sunny weather in Maine as we have been putting our gardens in. From Jean Ward, pray for Hong Kong too, please.
Okay, thank you all so much. We'd also like to light a candle both for joys and concerns for those thoughts that remain in our hearts but are too painful to speak out loud. And we also have a special candle provided by our care team. This represents those sorrows that really are too raw or too difficult for us to share out loud. We will light this candle for those sorrows which remain present but left unspoken. And the first reading this morning is Flowers Can Say Many Things by Cheryl.
Morning. Flowers can say many things for us, for they have a language of their own which is difficult for us to put into words. We give them to infants and children when they receive their names. We give them to brides and to grooms because they speak of happiness and joy. We give them at the time of illness because they speak of our concern and encouragement and cheer. We give them at the time of death, for they speak of our sympathy and shared grief. We give them when we want to tell of our friendship and love. We give them as gifts for many occasions, like Easter and Mother's Day. Flowers speak with a language of their own, of love and sympathy and gladness and friendship, many things. But today let them speak of the gift of life itself, and for that ever-present store of love and beauty which fills the world and can never be emptied. For all things out of our hundreds of experiences which tell us to lift up our hearts.
I know that many of you all out there are wondering how you can contribute to LCUUF while we are not able to meet together. We are going to post several ways for you to donate. There they are. If you don't have time to write them all down right now, don't worry. We will be including this information periodically in our daily sharing. Our second reading this morning is For the Flowers Have the Gift of Language by Reginald Zottoli. Matt and I will be sharing the reading. Speak, flowers, speak. Why do you say nothing? The flowers have the gift of language. In the meadow they speak of freedom, creating patterns wild and free, as no gardener could match. Oh, sorry, Matt's going to say his part again. We forgot the microphone.
Uh-huh.
Let me go back. Uh-huh. Okay. All right. In the forest they snuggle, snug carpets under the roof of leaf and branch, making a rug of such softness. At the end tip of branches they cling briefly before bursting into fruit sweet to taste.
Flowers, can you not speak joy to our sadness, hope to our fear? Can you not say how it is with you that you color the darkest corner?
Oh, would that you had voice, silent messengers of hope. Would that you could tell us how you feel arrayed in such beauty.
The flowers have the gift of language. In the dark depths of a death camp, they speak the light of life. In the face of cruelty, they speak of courage. In the experience of ugliness, they bespeak the persistence of beauty.
Speak, messengers, speak, for we would hear your message. Speak, messengers, speak, for we need to hear what you would say.
For the flowers have the gift of language. They transport the human voice on winds of beauty. They lift the melody of song to our ears. They paint through the eye and hand of the artist. Their fragrance binds us to sweet-smelling earth.
May the blessing of the flowers be upon you. May their beauty beckon to you each morning, and their loveliness lure you each day, and their tenderness caress you at night. May their delicate petals make you gentle, and their eyes make you aware. May their stems make you sturdy, and their reaching make you care. If there is a theme, an underlying message in the flower communion, it is that, like flowers in their diversity of forms and colors and shapes and scents, we each carry a diversity of gifts. We are better together when we acknowledge and celebrate each of our gifts. So in this meditation, I invite you to think of someone in this community, this congregation. Or if that's not easy, perhaps you are new with us, think of someone in your life. Bring them to mind. Allow them to be face to face with you in your mind. Perhaps you might want to smile at them. Think now of their gifts, their good qualities that they bring into the community or into your relationship. You might silently say thank you for their presence in this community or in your life. And now, if you'd like, you're welcome to type into the chat that good quality that came up foremost as you thought about that person. No need to type in the person's name, but just if you like, let us know the gift, the good quality that came to mind when you meditated on them. And we'll read these aloud.
Friendship, talents, friendliness, tenderness, kindness, generosity, always there, compassion, gratitude. Insights from science, a caring heart, humor,
Very well. Thank you. Let me offer a brief message today before our flower ceremony itself. You know, we Unitarian Universalists have relatively few rituals compared to most other religious groups. Those of you who grew up in Greek Orthodox or Roman Catholic or Jewish traditions can readily confirm this. And even you former Presbyterians or Mormons or Baptists will probably agree. We just don't do the smells and bells, the chants and prayers that other faiths do. But we have a few rituals that are dear to us. This is the story of one of those rituals. The Reverend Norbert Čapek ministered to a Unitarian church in Prague, Czechoslovakia in the 1930s. Čapek had immigrated to America from Czechoslovakia and discovered Unitarianism there. He went back to Prague, to his homeland, and started a church with the support of the American Unitarian Association. Now, Sunday services in his church were typical for Unitarian churches of the day. The whole service was oftentimes just one long sermon. And even though Čapek was a great speaker, the services were considered by some to be a bit too dry, a bit heady, maybe too intellectual. Now, some people loved it. I imagine some of you would too. But other people complained. As one of my preaching teachers used to say, too many words, too much sameness. So Čapek added hymns. He wrote many, and he explored ritual. He realized that just borrowing ritual from other churches wouldn't do. Many of his members were ex-Catholic, and they objected to anything like communion wafers, for example. So Čapek created what he called the flower ceremony, or flower communion. Everyone, children and adults, were invited to bring a flower to church, as we did this morning. They put the flowers on the altar, as we have here. And then during this flower ceremony, each person came forward and took a different flower. The meaning of this ritual is that we are all different, we're all beautiful, and our community shares the gifts of diversity and beauty that we all bring to one another. Čapek's church became a very successful Unitarian church, growing to some 3,000 members. And as many of you know, the story ends sadly. When the Nazis invaded Czechoslovakia and threw Čapek into prison for speaking out against the Nazis, ultimately they murdered him in a death camp in Dachau. So the flower communion holds multiple emotions for us, both a sense of joy and beauty and community, mixed with a sense of sadness and loss, recognizing and holding up the courage of this man in a time of tragedy. In times like ours today, haunted with racism and nationalism and xenophobia, it's good to remember people like Čapek and endeavor to have him be a model for our lives. Flowers do have a language. They do speak, though not just to us. They speak to their pollinators. For flowers wouldn't be without butterflies and bees and wasps and hummingbirds and bats. Each flower in its own beauty attracts certain traveling beings to transport its pollen, its life force, to other flowers of its kind. The fact that flowers are so beautiful to us is just a side effect. Their real beauty is reserved for those creatures who have co-evolved with the flowers to help them reproduce. In fact, many flowers have colors and patterns we cannot see. Ultraviolet colors that stand out for bees and guide them to the sweet spot, if you will. Others have scents that are attractive to certain moths. Some flowers even generate an electric field that may be detected by bumblebees. So another message that flowers speak to us is a message of interdependence. Flowers embody the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part, that idea enshrined in our seventh principle, which we hold so dear. The variety of flowers speaks to the variety of their pollinators. And so we see the richness of the web of existence and the richness of flowers in the natural world that surrounds us. We celebrate both the diversity of flowers and the fact that they, with their pollinators, represent the web of life. It's a joy to be here in Mexico this time of year, to go out into nature, to witness the bees, hummingbirds, the bumblebees making their rounds, calling on flower after flower, weaving the web of life before us. Though we are not their primary audience, the flowers do speak to us. We are reminded of our own diversity, each of us, of our interconnectedness, and our own place in the interdependent web. It's a good message. Now let us celebrate our flower communion ceremony.
In our daily sharing, we invited you to bring a flower to this gathering. Normally, during our ceremony, we would place our flowers with those others on the altar. It takes many flowers to make a bouquet, and it takes many kinds of people to make a church community. It takes all of us to make our congregation strong and special. Everyone in our fellowship needs a little something different, and in our ceremony, we pass a flower to our neighbor, symbolizing a unique gift, a unique receipt. Today, let us consider how our giving and receiving might be different. We may need more than we have needed in the past, and we may be able to give more in new ways we hadn't been open to considering before. Let us share the blossoms we've brought. Please hold up your flowers, and if you can and would like to, change your view to gallery view. And let's take a moment now to see the beautiful representation of gifts we bring to this community. While we are doing this, Michael will play a tune written by Reverend Norbert Chopik specifically for his flower service. The hymn is called Color and Fragrance. You may recognize it. Those were really, really beautiful. So many different kinds and colors. Thank you all so much for sharing them with us. And now we will extinguish our chalice with these words that we read together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we keep in our hearts and share with all the world. Michael will now play our postlude, What a Wonderful World by George Weiss and Bob Thiel. And it's actually a virtual recording by members of the Lake Chapala Community Orchestra.
Thank you so much, Michael and friends. Thank you. So our closing words. I've been meeting monthly with a group of about a dozen UU ministers for over 6 years now. We're scattered all over the U.S., Canada, one in London, and me here. We meet by Zoom. Each time we close our meeting, we do this little ritual of holding hands. And I invite you to turn your camera on and select gallery view so you can see a whole lot of people. And now I invite you to put your hands up like this. This is a little tricky because you are probably mirror imaged, so that your hands are touching kind of the edge of your little image box. And let's say these words together. Repeat after me. I put my hands in yours so that together we may do
so that together may we do
what we cannot do alone.
what we cannot do alone.
Thank you. Blessed be. And I